Let's continue to talk about the candidates running for the 117th District in Missouri, and we have Chad Brown with us. Chad, thanks so much for talking to us today on the Parkland Podcast.
Yes, sir.
Tell us why you decided to throw your hat into the political ring.
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll make it short for the podcast. So I spent 25 years in law enforcement, opened some businesses and stuff, and then July of 2021, I actually got COVID. Ended up in a coma for 3 months on the ventilator, 6 months in the hospital, a lot of rehab for 2 years and surgeries, and lost half a lung, and got out. I ended up taking early retirement from sheriffs. I did that, and then we traveled. I got real bored. I got real tired of politics and the way things were going in our country, our state, everything. And so I looked at what I could do to get back involved and help the community locally, and decided I was going to run for state rep. Mike was terming out, and it'd be a good time to step up and put my money where my mouth is, basically. So,
why did you decide on the state representative's race as the place where you can make a difference?
Well, it has a lot to do with state laws and budgeting and things like that. So I spent a long time knowing what laws get enforced, what laws are useless, what things you can and cannot change, and what you can do. And I had a vast experience of budget, grants, things like that, both government-wise, running the police and sheriff's department versus owning businesses. And I know a lot of things that I could address that I think we need addressed. And it seemed like a more of an entry-level position where you can actually get something done versus just holding an office.
Tell us a little bit about the law enforcement background and how that's kind of prepared you for this venture into the political arena.
Yeah, so when I was 17, I started off at the Washington County Sheriff's Department. I got to graduate high school early. Sheriff Skiles offered me a job, and that's where it went from there. 18, I went to the police academy at Mac, became the jail administrator at Washington County, worked my way up. 2005, I went to work at Bonterra as a narcotics canine handler. So I did a lot of interdiction work and things there. Got a job offer in St. Charles I couldn't pass up at the time. I had 2 young kids, and they offered me over double the salary and better benefits, paid for everything for the kids. So I went there. From there, I worked my way up to patrol sergeant. I worked as a detective, and I got assigned to the St. Louis Major Case Squad. So I worked homicide and big cases for Illinois and Missouri. Went back, became part of the command staff, took over day-to-day operations of the department, ran the St. Charles County DWI task force. It gave me a lot of experience with budgets and paperwork and getting things done, motivating people, getting them to do things. So financial side, that. Then I went on. I just kept going up and ended up opening our first business 2012 or so in that was in Wentzville, a restaurant, and then had a restaurant in DeSoto and a hotel. 5 businesses here in St. Francis County, and just learned a lot over the time.
What are your top priorities going to be if elected?
So I think a lot of it, a lot of priorities I think I can address is kind of the motivation for running too. Is our Constitution. We're getting away from everything, and I think I can battle the liberal agenda and not be afraid to stand up and say what needs to be said, because, man, if you look at the opioid epidemic around here, you look at everything, just mental health is a huge issue. And then our sheriff's race is hugely contested. Well, I think we can help them by taking a lot of the burden off of them if the state redirects funding and we get better mental health, better drug addiction counseling, things like that going. We can make a huge difference with all problems. So I think that's a huge priority. And then our DOC is a mess, and I get a lot of complaints on that right now. And then we've got, I think, 5 guys that just got arrested and charged. So it's a big issue, and I think it needs to be addressed and gone over and see what we can straighten out.
Is securing more funds for salaries a good way to improve Department of Corrections, other state jobs? And at the same time, how do you do that and still stay fiscally responsible?
I think yes and no. Mm-hmm. So yeah, obviously money's going to help anybody. That's any job, because people bounce around, and you can't blame them. Our economy is so bad right now that if you get an extra $200 a week, that's a huge difference.
Sure.
But on the same hand, I think morale, working conditions, things like that are a better motivator for people wanting to stay, because a lot of people like their jobs. A lot of people like who they work with, but they can't stand the conditions, and it gets stressing. I know some of those guys working 12-hour shifts, 5, 6, 7 days a week. I mean, that wears people out. It gets old. So I think there's both sides that need to be addressed.
Real quick, quick plug for your motorcycle group you're a part of.
Yeah, so I'm the president of the Gunners Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club. We're a 501c, and it's law enforcement and military veterans, and that's all we do is fundraisers and charity events. So, yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet.
And you can find out more about that group online?
Yeah, there's a website, and I think it's gunnerslemc.com or .org. There's two different ones, so I think they can check that out.
And what about your campaign?
Yeah.
My campaign, it's brownformissouri.com. So they can check everything out there, and then we've got the Facebook page, and I try to stay up to date on that and keep people informed on what's going on, where we're going to be.
Fantastic. Nice to meet you. Best of luck to you on the campaign.
Sir. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's Chad Brown. He is running for the 117th District and joining us here on the Parkland Podcast.